Hi, my name is Bob Cristello, and I am a WordPress architect. I work in the digital marketing space for a global data protection company. Welcome back to episode 4 of WordPress with WP Bob, and today we're going to be talking about the WordPress MySQL Database. So I want to be clear that the opinions I express are completely my own. They are not the opinions or the policies of my company or any other agency I might be involved with, and nothing I say could be construed as business or financial advice. I'm just a WordPress architect, and this is my masterclass, given freely to the world because I simply want to document my process. So why don't we jump right in, and here's our WordPress backend at bobcristello.com, which is our testing environment. And what I did was I stripped all the posts out, I stripped all the pages out, I stripped all the media out, stripped all the comments out. So there's a few plugins in the system, and I do have one user, and of course, a ton of settings, which is what we would expect to see. In the way of taxonomies, we've got no categories whatsoever or tags. So what does this look like down on the server level? So by looking at my phpMyAdmin here, I come into my back-end database. This is actually what it looks like in a phpMyAdmin. And okay, so if you're just like a WordPress enthusiast or you're a management professional, not really interested in the nuts and bolts of WordPress, this may be a little beyond you, but phpMyAdmin is basically a visual interface that was developed years ago so that MySQL programmers could have a visual interface to work on servers. You can work on the command line through MySQL, and there are a variety of things you can do to connect to MySQL databases. We're not going to cover that today. What we are going to cover is the structure and how the WordPress database is a conceptual data model. A lot of people are trained in third form normal. It's pretty much what everybody learns when we first learn databases in school or wherever it is that we learn them. Dr. E.J. Codd's principles outlined in 1967, right, in San Jose, for first form, second form, third form, fourth form, and fifth form normal projects. And the WordPress is a different model from that, though it does have some of the same principles, some of the same behaviors. It's a completely different entity. So let's take a look at this. I guess the easiest one is to say, let's take a look at the settings. Okay, so in the back end, you will, as a default, as I said, have 12 different tables. The simplest one to understand is probably the WP options. It's the thing that stores all of our settings, writing, reading, discussion, permalinks, etc. are handled in here. And you can see there's 227 actually in this particular Bob Cristello sandbox. And for example, like completely disposable website, hello WP Bob audience, for example. And then when I save this here, that's in my backend WordPress, and I should be able to refresh this. And there you go. Entry option ID 4, blog description is the option name, and there's the hello WP Bob audience. And then there's a few other fields like auto load, etc. But what you're looking at is basically nothing more than a CSV table. If you've never seen databases, this is how databases work. They're broken into tables. Each table has a set of records, and each record has a set of fields. Hold that thought. So now let's come over to looking at our users here. So here's our admin user. And if we go to edit our admin user, we can see there's a lot of information we store about each user. This is my user. And in the users table, you can see the user has an ID, a user login, an encrypted password, and so on and so forth. But there is not quite as much information there as there is in my backend. So the users table has a corresponding user meta table. If you are a third form normal developer, like this is primary key ID, and you can see user ID is foreign key over here with a UMeta ID of a primary key. Primary keys and foreign keys, all the rules still apply. It's a one-to-many, a one-to-one, etc. In this particular case, it's quite often a many-to-many, which is the whole point behind a conceptual model. So again, users have a corresponding user meta. So this users is like a primary table, a primary entity, because you can have many users and each user can have many pieces of metadata. So this is the heart of the conceptual model, and you need to understand this before we go any further. Options, links, these are two standalone tables. Yeah, they're pretty self-explanatory. I rarely even look at the links table. But there's the WP options table. And there's users and user meta. So what about posts? What about post meta? Well, before we go any further, I do need to take a look at taxonomies because I do not have one in my system. I specifically took everything out. So I'm going to come to my terms table because I know that's where taxonomies live. And I have a 2023 term and I have no term relationships, but I do have a WP theme term taxonomy. There should be no term meta. So again, these four tables serve a very specific relationship. They also relate to other tables, entities, if you will, but these are the taxonomy and terms tables. So what I want to do simply is create a category of blog. No parent, no slug, no description. Well, here we go. This is my description for the blog category. Yeah. Sorry about that. Category. It's a good thing I'm a good programmer because I'm a terrible typist. Okay, so we're going to add this category. So how does this impact this over here? So first we want to look at terms. So you can see that we've got a term with an ID of 3. The name of the term is blog. The slug is blog. If I look in the term meta, there's nothing there. But I should have now a category in the term taxonomy table. You see that? And there's a description there. No parent, and there's nothing posted to it. So term taxonomy ID, term ID 3 relates to the blog category. Currently no relationship set up. Okay? So I am going to now take us over to the post table. So there's some sort of draft in the post table, nothing in the post meta table. I don't know what this is. Let's take a look at this. Do we have anything in draft status? I don't see anything. So I think that's a mistake. And I'm just going to delete that. So this is what happens when you're playing with the back end. Things don't always go correctly. So this is why it's important not to play around with things you don't understand. But here we go. So we have posts, we have our post category of blog, and we're going to create a new post. Okay, so we're going to add a post here, and we're going to say post 1. And we're going to just write some text here, and we're going to say some things about the post over here on the right hand column. We're going to put it into our blog category, and we're going to publish it. And that's all we're going to do right now. Okay. And then we're going to look at this post. So this is actually our very first post. And what happened on the back end? Well, we actually had 3 entries into the post table. If you can see that. Post 1 in a status of publish, post 1 for custom styles and a status of publish, and some other thing here, also post 1 but set to inherit. Is there any post meta been added? Well, there has been. There's an edit lock on the file. Now that simply means because I had it open, and if anybody else tried to come in and edit it, this would tell them, no, you can't, because the meta value is like locked. But if you're an admin, you can assume control. And sometimes these things will stay persistent because you need a cron job to clean up your transients. This would be a transient. So imagine you're working on a page, you're editing it, you close it down, and then somebody else tries to open it up just a few minutes later, it's still locked because the transient would still be in place and it hasn't been cleaned up. So that's a really important thing to understand. But the idea that we have 3 posts when we've only created 1 post is kind of interesting. So do we have any new terms? No. Any new term metas? No. Any new term taxonomies? No. Do we have any new term relationships? We do. Object 84 is related to ID 3, and Object 85 is related to ID 1. 1 and 3 are respectively the theme and the category. And if we come to posts, well, there you go. There's 84, 85, and now 86 because it's orphaned or transient, or it's keeping some sort of information like, there you go. So it's the original revision. Every time you edit the document, it will create an older revision. So if you edit a document 100 times, you'll have 100 entries into your post table. And these, again, need to be cleaned up. Should be, anyway. Most people don't. They forget about them. So let's do another thing now. Let's go back in and we'll edit the post. And this time we're going to set a featured image, because this demonstrates a really important concept here. So let's, I don't know, here, WordPress 4. There you go. Let's use our current thumbnail. Here we go. And we're going to set this to featured. And then we're going to update this. And when we come out to the front page, you should see the image gets added in there. Actually, I think if you get to the home page, it should automatically, well, there you go. There's the post. There's the individual post itself. And if we just look at the blog category, there is all our blogs. So WordPress has done exactly what we've asked it to do. And let's see what it did here. So we should have, like you can see, there's number 87. Now, what is 87? It's, there we go. It's an attachment. So the image that we just added to this post here, 84. So 84 is related to 87. Let's see if we can see that in the back end. Terms, again, no new terms, no new term meta. No new term taxonomies, but no relationships, because the relationship is stored in another location. So it is a truly conceptual model. You have a single post table that actually can morph, if you will. It can morph into something else depending on its need. It can be a post. It can be an attachment. It can be a revision. Here, let's go back into the back end, and now let's add a page. So we're going to call this the home page, and let's add, I don't know, a paragraph, and this is my amazing home page. So again, this is a page, so it has no category, no tag, and we're going to publish this. So now here is my home page. Now you'll notice there is no pages in page meta, okay? So posts out of the box for WordPress can be many things. It can be, here we go, a post, a global style, a revision, an attachment, or a page. So this is why it's a conceptual model. Posts have post metas. Users have user meta. Terms have term meta. Terms also have relationships to term taxonomies, which we have seen can be the theme, can be the category. So if we were to come back into the back end okay, where are we at? We're at 17 minutes. Okay. So we're in the back end here, and we're going to add one more category, like, news items. And let's add them underneath the blog in a hierarchy. And then just for yucks and grins, let's add a tag like hot off the press, for lack of a better term. And then we're going to come back and we're going to edit our post, and we're going to add it into both categories and into the tag hot. There you go, and it will find it for me. I can also create new tags here, like test news, for example, and hit enter. And then when I update the entire thing and come back to the back end, in fact, I now have two tags. I have two categories, and these things all create archives on the front end. You have to be aware of this. Anytime you use a tag at all, it will create an archive on the front end. And if you're not prepared for this, you wind up with a lot of blank pages on your website, actually. So just to close out the exercise, there you go. So now we have all our posts, and we can see that we have new terms, we have new term relationships, we have new term taxonomies. So conceptual data models: users, user meta; terms, term meta. Terms have relationships to taxonomies. Taxonomies in our case can be several things: a theme, a category, or a post tag out of the box. Options is a standalone table. Links, standalone table. Comments, comments meta. And for example, like here, you see in the users table, that's an ID. In the post table, that's an ID. So that breaks third form normal right there. Same name for a different primary key. So let's wrap this up. I'm right at about 19 minutes. So today we looked at WordPress databases, MySQL databases actually. If anybody asks you to install WordPress on a Windows system with like a SQL Server backend, you should probably run from that project or hire a trained professional to do that for you. It is better to focus on the way this thing is built out of the box, extend it through the plugins, change the visual appearance to the themes. And it's really important to understand from my perspective as an architect on my team and advising all chairs in my department and in outside departments, it's important for me to know this stuff all the way from the server all the way to the front end. But it's not important that everybody in your organization understands that. But there is a structure and discipline to it, which leads to individual creativity. And once you get to individual creativity, you can then synergistically and collaboratively work with your teammates. And this is the thing that I call, when you reach that pinnacle, I call it agile creativity, as I've outlined in one of my essays. So, in closing, I'm really glad this episode's over because we're done with the meat and potatoes. And actually, if I never made another video again, this would stand as a great library resource, these 4 pieces. And that's really my intent here is, sorry, my neighbors I think are moving today. But this is my intent. I do not want to sell you anything. I do not want to upsell you on anything. I do not want like my inbox filled with job offers. I am very content where I am at, and there is no amount of money that you could pay me to walk away from what I am currently doing, because it is, quite frankly, the best and greatest experience I've ever had of my professional and my personal career. And I pray and I hope that each and every one of you find that type of inspiration as you go forward. Because underneath it all, underneath all the bits and the bytes and the binary, and we are creative human beings. And we create perhaps in a more structured and logical way, but that doesn't mean that we cannot extend a hand across the aisle to our creative brothers and sisters in this industry and work together to successfully create a product that your company can be proud of, that you can be proud of, and that your team can be proud of. Anyway, my name is Bob Cristello. Thanks again for tuning in today to episode 4 of WordPress with WP Bob, and see you soon.